Hello and welcome, star people. Welcome to another journey into the archetypal realm where we continue to unravel the hero's journey through the zodiac. I'm APM and this is the Outlaw Astrology Podcast, and today we're going to be scaling the metaphorical mountain of Capricorn, the sage elder who teaches us about the paradoxical nature of boundaries as both restrictive and liberating forces. Housekeeping. We also have social media accounts. We're on Pinterest, we're on Instagram and YouTube. Those links are in the show notes. There is also a sibling newsletter called the Daily Stargazer. It has a free and paid option. Info about that and those links are also in the show notes. And as always, I'm your intrepid guide through these cosmic territories, and I am APM, and these insights will navigate us through the Capricornian path of mastery through discipline. And with that said, let's move on. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the mountain's call, and that's the authority as sacred responsibility. And so the mountain call is because we're talking about mountain goats. The symbol for Capricorn, cardinal earth sign, meaning it starts a season, meaning winter, and is at the solstice point, winter solstice point, in the northern hemisphere, and the summer in the southern hemisphere. And we think mountains, steep, we think mountain goats, and they're known to be sure-footed, and you can often see pictures of them sitting on very steep inclines, relaxing there as if it were the easiest thing in the world, because to them it is. And so the cosmic position of elder is all very Capricorn energy. So Capricorn represents that 10th stage in hero's journey, and this is where one must integrate all previous lessons to establish a meaningful structure or system in the world. And this archetype is earned through its authority through lived experience, not merely claiming the experience. And so it is not unusual to have this card associated in tarot with the world card, because that is skill. It is experience. It's hard won, hard fought. And the planet that has an affinity with Capricorn is Saturn. And Saturn is about limits. It's about challenges. It's about that oppositional energy. Because oppositions naturally have a archetypal energy and connection, affinity and correspondence with Capricorn. And so it's about the hard knocks that we all live through, usually survive and live through. If we're still living, we survive them, and they can be wisdom. Now, I'm not suggesting every hard knock is going to lead to a nicely prepackaged, rosy, pretty, spiritually bypassing message and hard lesson that we can share on a stage and for millions and millions of dollars. I mean, that's the story that gets told to us, especially if we've been seeking, wandering, and disillusioned, confused, and going in and out of those states as often as we step into states of clarity and certainty. And so Capricorn is less about the claim that we have an authority, is more about what have you survived? What hard knocks you didn't get a choice about? Which ones provided lessons and which ones provided no lesson at all? Not everything is going to be something we can learn from. Some things just bloody well suck. And we do the best that we can when we cannot find beautiful nuggets of gold. Okay? And so Saturn's energy is a double-edged sword. It explains how it could explain how Capricorn's energy can be as it is. Okay, so Saturn is the planetary ruler. I don't like the word ruler. It is a guide. It has an affinity, a correspondence, a very rhymal correspondence to Capricorn energy. And the energy there is both limitation and mastery. Because here's the thing about learning and about growth, which is in our society, the Western philosophical society, growth is supposed to just keep going up and up and up, and there's no ebb, no flow. And Saturn steps in. Saturn's the timekeeper. Usually when you see that hooded figure with a scythe, that's Father Time. Usually he's just a hooded figure, an older gentleman, usually a gentleman, usually older. In some traditions, they may upend this completely, but in the one that I draw from, the one I'm most familiar with, that's usually the picture. That's also how we see death sometimes. And that is time. And Saturn is a timekeeper, very much aware of the passing of time, how much time takes, how much we're allotted, how much time we've got, how much time we've wasted, used, spent. And so it's kind of a paradoxical energy there. And so we question authority, not by rejecting systems and structures entirely, but by questioning the structures that no longer serve evolution. So the idea, Saturn energy, is it likes to be clear. It likes to be methodical. It likes to be practical. It's hard-working energy. It likes to have a single objective that it steadily works toward and makes small progress on the daily. It is highly productive. It is highly motivated. It is focused. And what most people get wrong about Capricorn energy is that it's always on. It's always hardworking. The energy never wanes. And it can constantly generate and produce and be productive until the sky falls in. And that's just not the case. Because Saturn is about boundaries. It's about being aware of edges. It's being aware of one's limitations. It's being aware of the fact that human nervous systems cannot and do not go on and on and on as a perpetual motion machine might indicate, and we cannot be perpetually productive, etc. And so one of the lessons of Saturn energy is understanding that limits are not a bad thing. That the problem isn't having a limit. The problem isn't structure, is when that structure stops serving the individual, meaning serving the fact that you have an allotted time upon this earth, that we are biological, and that our bodies need sleep, need rest, need joy, need other things instead of just productivity. We cannot constantly be pushing to some objective that we're measuring our focus, our grit, and our determination against. And as an outlaw, we are standing just slightly outside the system to question authority. And first of all, blind faith. We're taught Saturn energy is the trust in authority figures. Now, the guru planet's actually Jupiter, but the elder is Saturn. And I suggest, as an outlaw, that authority figures, which are represented by Saturn, should be questioned. It should not be just a case of blind faith, taking an authority figure's word for it because they said it, or because they're older, or because, they having a bit more experience in life doesn't shake out as we hope. Yes, you might be an authority, meaning well-versed in a certain field, but that does not mean that you are then free to share your wisdom widely in fields of which we have no knowledge. For example, if one is a heart surgeon, I would be thrilled to hear all about all that comes with being a heart surgeon. What I'm uninterested in hearing about is, well, I think nutrition should be done like this without any how much do you know about nutrition? And by the way, doctors in the West are not well versed most of the time in nutrition. It is something they have to learn as part of their practice. It's not something they get immediately in medical school. So that was not the best example. But let's say if I want spiritual nurturance, support, a heart surgeon is probably not going to be the best choice. Why? Because heart surgeons in Western medicine, in particular in Western American medicine, they're surgeons. You're not going to see them unless you're unconscious on the table. That's when you see them. And then maybe they might pop in if they've got the time to see how you're doing, but the person that's going to handle you post and pre is going to be the cardiologist, not the heart surgeon. Heart surgeon did their part. You get handed off back to the cardiologist and his team or their team, and then things go on from there. Sorry about that. But how does this stand with Saturn? Well, I want care. I want nurturance. I want support in my time of need. If I'm getting heart surgery, I'm going to need that. A heart surgeon is not the best person to do that. An authority figure, certainly. If we're talking about the heart, that person is in a position to know. But when it comes to how to integrate back into the world after having this underworld moment in that I needed heart surgery, hypothetically speaking, as you can see, not the best choice there. So when I'm talking about authority, I'm talking about questioning authority and authority's intent. Just because someone's an authority figure does not mean that they have your best interest at heart or that they are a good authority figure. And by the way, authority figures and leadership are not the same thing. One can be an authority figure and have no leadership abilities whatsoever. We're seeing that writ large on the national stage in many different countries, in many different jurisdictions, not just one. Okay, so the sacred mountain as a metaphor. Now, mountain deities are all over our culture, in our folklore, in our myth. We have quite a few, for example, so let me name a few. So Kronos is the Greek deity that represents time itself, often confused with Cronus, which is a titan, and those titans were the precursors, the giants who were precursors to the Olympian pantheon, which includes Zeus, Hera, Hermes, etc. Okay? And so the representation here is Capricorn's relationship with time, with discipline, with the harvesting of one's efforts. Another choice would be Saturn or Saturnus. That's a Roman god of agriculture, generation, wealth, disillusion, etc. And is also associated with Capricorn's ruling planet. It embodies the concept of limits and boundaries that create meaningful structure. See, that's why we have the limits. That's why we have the boundaries. So we can create a meaningful structure and a meaningful system. And then we can go on to Kailash and Lord Shiva, which are sacred mountain deities of Tibet, and the deity that resides and the deities that reside there. So represents esoteric and yogi. So relates to Capricorn's disciplined path to wisdom and transcendence. We also have Grandfather Time. Western personification is time as an elder with an hourglass and a scythe, as I've mentioned, and captures Capricorn's aging wisdom and connection to natural cycles. Janus, the Roman god of transitions, is doorways, passages, looking to past and future simultaneously, because Janus has two faces, and symbolizes Capricorn's role as the bridge between the old and the new year for tradition and innovation, because between Jupiter and Uranus is Saturn, sitting there quite nicely with Chiron kind of bouncing around here and there in its own orbit. But it's like a bridge between, the established order, because it is the last planet we can see with the naked eye, moving on to the innovation of Uranus, discovered in 1781, after telescopes had been discovered or invented, depending on how you want to look. Let's say discovered in the late 17th century. And so some of those deities are very commonly held deities. One last set, the Greek Mount Olympus deities, which were the Greek gods. They resided on the highest mountain, representing authority and power, and connects to Capricorn's theme of ascending to positions of influence through dedicated effort. So the energy of Capricorn and the energy is basically earned authority through time, and the responsibility of holding wisdom for others. So those are key Capricorn themes for the elder archetype. And so the sacred mountain, whether it's Kronos or Shiva, it represents the pinnacle of achievement through sustained effort. So there is also a necessary isolation and aesthetic practices in many wisdom traditions. It is not unusual for if you're considering like Gautama Buddha left the palace and went into isolation and in exile and sat beneath a tree, and there are a few others that ended up in the mountain, like Nichiren Buddhism had their reformer priest who also ended up in a mountain. It was cold, it was, austere, and the whole point is to move yourself from society and from its rules so you can step back and get clear of head. It is rather like the Hermit card in Tarot. It is the ability to step back, to pause, to reflect, to observe. And that is the energy we're talking about here. And it connects to Capricorn's solitary nature, particularly if you have Capricorn on the cusp of the 12th house or Saturn in the 12th house. That is a solitary nature, need to step back in order to pause, to reflect, to observe, to witness. Next, let's talk about the shadow of the elder, and this is control versus wisdom. So here's the thing. Status can be seductive. And so Capricorn's shadow can manifest as an attachment to external markers of success rather than genuine authority, meaning put in the hard work and had some hard knocks and overcome challenges, and those challenges made someone more experienced, more skilled, and potentially a leader, willing to share their wisdom with people who might need it or who will ask. And so society has a very hierarchical structure, and it rewards empty achievements rather than true wisdom. So when I'm thinking of that, I'm thinking of all the gurus whose email lists I've popped on or whose books I've read, who always at some point, particularly if I'm on their email list, will have some sort of epiphany that when you hear it, you're just like, wait a second. And offhand, I cannot think of one. This is how amazing those epiphanies were, and I'm being sarcastic. I don't remember any of them. I just remember in the moment going, womp, womp, that's the energy I felt. And I'm thinking, this doesn't, here's an example. Someone has an anxiety financially, and maybe they involve themselves in a mindfulness practice taught by an influencer who's doing very well financially. And then all of a sudden, they're like, I have found inner peace. And then magically, people start giving them money, like $10,000, $20,000 just appears in their account, or someone just turns up and offers them, free $20,000. And you're just like, wow, that's amazing. And I have seen a lot of these in a lot of self-help books. So when I was talking about empty achievements, we're talking about capitalist type achievements, that every little nugget of wisdom is automatically going to serve us as in productivity, in hustle and grind culture. It's always going to turn into something that's going to lead to money. It's going to lead to success in current late capitalist 21st century ideals. It's going to end up in a seven-figure business, a luxury vehicle, a large home, a sexy spouse, gorgeous children, and pets that take prizes at various, pet shows where, purebred pets perform, and etc. And so that's the story that society likes to give us. And those achievements, whilst lovely, don't always give us the nurturance or give us what we seek to get out of it. I cannot count the number of times I have read books upon books upon books and post upon newsletter post from a person who thought that if they got the big car, the big house, the sexy spouse, the gorgeous children, the gorgeous pets, the fabulous life, that life would suddenly be less hard, it would be more enjoyable, there'd be more joy and more delight, etc. And only to find out that all of that stuff came with more responsibility and more hard work. As one of my former clients once said to me, that the stuff in itself was work. Maintaining that success level is hard work, and maintaining the stuff that comes along with that also hard work. So when I say empty achievements, I mean that we might shoot to have a 7-figure business, get the 7-figure business, and then sit there and say to ourselves, what happened? Why isn't this doing the thing? It's supposed to make me happy. It's supposed to make me feel loved. It's supposed to make me feel alive, or joy or delight, or whatever it is that we think it's supposed to give us, or even give us wisdom. Okay, so that's what I mean. Now, another challenge of the elder energy and Capricorn energy is rigidity. Now, rigidity can be a fear response. And so Capricorn shadow energy turns rigid when threatened, becomes very authoritarian rather than an authority. So authoritarian, as we all know, is rules that are convenient to those who identify with the so-called authority whilst oppressing other people. That's typically how that works. And so not really true leadership. It is mostly about how I can extract what I like, what I need, and I mean hypothetically, how can we extract, rather than how can we contribute, okay? And so I'm thinking about Janus. Now, this is the god, the Roman god, who looks both ways. And it's a healthy expression of being flexible while honoring tradition. You see, Capricorn energy is very much into tradition. That's what it has in access with Cancer. Tradition is very important there. And honoring tradition is beautiful. We want to remember where we came from. But we don't want that tradition to become an albatross around our necks, a chain, an anchor that makes us sink to the bottom of a figurative and symbolic metaphorical ocean. We're not trying to do that. The whole point of the exercise is to build on a stable structure. You cannot build something from nothing. Contrary to belief, we build things on the structures of other things that have evolved or outlived their usefulness, okay? So Janus energy suggests looking both ways. Look to the past, but also look to the future. We don't have to choose between being a romantic, looking to the past, and being sentimental for a golden age a mythological golden age that may or may not have been, or looking to the future for that same thing, but out there in the future. It's just looking back. This is where we've been, and looking to the future. This is where we're going. It is important to know where we are going, but it's also important to know where we've been. Because now, in the present, we can be present and have presence, which is, okay, this is how far I've come, this is how far I've yet to go. This experience is symbolized as the tension between the north and the south nodes of the moon. So if you got Capricorn north node, this would be that tension you might be experiencing. So the whole point of transcending the shadow is to embrace that perspective. Understand that structures crumble. The Tower card in Tarot. All structures eventually crumble. Things come to an end. Nothing lasts forever. The only constant in the cosmos is, paradoxically, change. Count on the fact that if we have a habit we're trying to establish, which is Capricorn energy, continued effort to make a habit something that feels more natural to us, there will be a relapse. Count on it. That's just how that is as human beings. So understanding that all structures will crumble, that nothing lasts forever, that everything is temporary. But just because it is temporary does not mean it lacks value, only that in this moment, at this time, we pause, we enjoy, we take delight in, with the understanding that time will, figuratively speaking, roll on, and this joy, which is precious, shall too pass. Okay? And so what we're trying to do here is think about how liberation can be found in understanding and working with impermanence. And that is Saturn's ultimate lesson. Things are impermanent. Now, we can also step forth with embodying the wisdom of the sage elder, which is Capricorn energy. And we want to build structures that serve the evolution. And that means we're looking for practical approaches, which I'm still trying to explore. This is all very new to me. Just recently, I've had my insights, and I'm trying to learn and teach from those insights. And so the first step is, creating boundaries and systems that support rather than constrain growth. Okay? So inevitably, systems are going to get to that point and become more closed. Now, closed systems, represented by Saturn, time, and Capricorn, closed systems tend to be more stable and more safer because outside influences, chaos, are not upending things. The random is not being invited in. And that can, for a time, be a good thing. But one of the challenges here is that a closed system is not robust, and it cannot stay healthy forever. At some point, it's going to sicken slowly and die, or pass out of reality back to nowhere, right? So the whole point of structures is to hold on gently and to find ways to find peace and stillness, and to do the best we can with the understanding that impermanence is the ultimate lesson. So we've got Kaleach, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, but I'm absolutely certain I'm not. And this is a mountain deity that of Celtic lineage, divine hag, and it shapes mountains, rules winter, is associated with measuring time. So this embodies Capricorn's harsh but necessary weathering that creates strength. So those are the challenges. Those are the obstacles. And bringing this energy in shows us how we can be less about dominance and more about natural wisdom. Things pass, let them pass. Now, claiming authentic authority, we have to think about power over versus power with in our leadership. So power over is because I said so energy. We all know that statement because everywhere in the world has had a parent, a caretaker say because I said so. And that doesn't lead to, that's more of a power over thing. And consider that most families are rather like society at large, but in miniature. There's going to be authority figures and then the ruled people, meaning the children, the pets, etc., who are supposed to be agreeable and put other people's needs and desires before their own and go along and follow the rules. And then those who impose the rules, that's power over. And so power with is, well, you're inviting people in. And I know it's not easy in a structure that tells us that power over is safe. It's questioning, is it really safe, and for whom is it safe? And if we're going to do power with, how would that look? That is where I'm at in understanding the zodiac and understanding the world. What does power with look like? And how would everybody share in that? And how would we also, honor the fact that impermanence is a thing? How is this? Because the structure is going to shift and change. We have to count on that. So when we're looking at Lord Shiva, this energy represents the authority that comes from self-mastery rather than external control. The whole point is you've learned stuff as an older person, you're skilled, you're experienced, but not perfect. And you're like, this is what I have to share. This is what I know for sure. This is what I believe. And based on that, here is what I have to share. These are the hard lessons, the hard knocks that have shaped me into the person I am today. Rather than, this is the way you should do it. There is only one way to do it. It is fixed, it's absolute, and you have no choice kind of energy. And so this energy is questioning that. Questioning that authority says, do it the way I told you because I told you, or this is what I have to share. This is my wisdom based on my experiences. Your experiences might be different, so it's a dialogue now rather than someone offering edicts and rules and that sort of thing. Now, the legacy of the ultimate of Capricornian work can be, for a sage, elder, or archetype, is creating a system that can outlast an individual. And that's basically about multi-generational impact. So we question what truly needs to be reserved. We live in a society in the West in which traditions are calcified, and nobody questions whether or not these things can be updated, deleted, or anything like that. No, this is the way it is. We must keep this in line to stay true to tradition. Staying true to tradition is a beautiful thing, but we also must make room for innovation, for change, for transformation, because if we don't, we will be caught unawares. Change is going to happen. As I've said, impermanence is the way of the cosmos. It is the rule, not the exception to the rule. Order is the exception to the rule. Order does not last forever. The same way chaos is always going to come in and invite itself to the party like the bad fairy in the Sleeping Beauty folklore story. It's going to happen. How do we make our peace with it? How do we work with it? How do we create systems and structures of multi-generational that outlast one person? Because one person isn't going to change the world. It is all of us together that will do that. Now, we have come to the end of this particular episode, and so as we descend from Capricorn's mountainous depths, we carry with us the understanding that true authority is not about domination. It's mostly about responsible wielding of hard-won wisdom. And perhaps the most profound grit of the sage elder archetype is the recognition that we don't build structures for our own glory. They are meant to be scaffolding for those who will climb after us. So, until next time, we're going to venture in the next episode into the revolutionary territory of Aquarius, where the structures we've built must face the lightning strike of radical innovation. Until next time, question authority, especially our own, and remember that wisdom often speaks in whispers, not commands. And if you found value in today's exploration, consider supporting this work through membership to the Daily Stargazer podcast. And feel free to share these insights with fellow cosmic outlaws. Thank you very much for listening. This is APM, your intrepid star guide, and this is the Outlaw Astrology podcast. And peace and astro magic star people.